I never liked the circus, not for any particular reason. I just wasn't a fan of all the theatrical side of things. My little brother, however, was a huge fan of the circus. It had taken up permanent residence around 5 miles outside of our town. It was in fact the opening day of the circus. Advertisements seemed to have appeared from nowhere. It was situated within a large cut-down field next to another field full of wind turbines. So my parents gave in to my brother's constant whining, and we went out around 1 in the afternoon to the circus. He wouldn't shut up as we approached the main gate. We were greeted by the startling image of a wide-mouthed clown on a large sign just outside of it, and underneath were the words, "Big Tops, Horrific Circus." It's so fun that even your parents won't want to leave. Yeah, right. Well, that clown doesn't know me at all. After we parked, my brother jumped out of the car and ran towards a cotton candy stall. He's 5 years old, so what would I expect, right? "Don't go running off, Marcus," my mom shouted at him. Marcus kept bugging me to go on all the rides with him. My dad kind of forced me into it to keep him company, and by the time I got off the carousel, I felt like I'd come down with an illness. I felt that sick. It seemed like every ride here was turned up a notch to intentionally make the children spew candy and chocolate all over each other. They also played this ominous music that sounded like something you'd hear in a nightmare in a horror film. There seemed to be a call-up around every corner, blaring out a hideous tune from its rusty pipes. It was around 300 p.m. now, and my mom called me over to tell me that the show was about to start and that I had to accompany my brother to it because it was a kids-only show. What show? Oh, that show. The one where people fly out of cannons and all that rubbish, I thought. The one where elephants parade left to right and are secretly thinking, "You're all a bunch of assholes." I was not remotely interested. I mean, surely that's not remotely safe, right? A children's only show where parents or guardians aren't even allowed in. But I didn't think much of it at the time. I was dragged along to the show, and Marcus made sure we had decent seats. It seemed like half an hour before the thing started, but finally the curtains drew back and out came a man in a red suit with a beige-colored trousers and a black top hat. He also had a black cane with a golden head of what seemed to be a monkey on top of it. He spoke with a French accent. It was the ringleader. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I welcome to you through the Big Top's terrific circus, where it is so wonderful to see so many people here on our opening day. We have plenty in store for you and your parents here this afternoon. Marvel at the amazing Ernie the elephant. Gasp at the beautiful Miss Melody and cheer for the one and only dangerous Dawn. We have plenty of treats for you this afternoon and this evening, so let the show commence." An uproar from the crowd made me jump. The entire tent erupted with applause. I was probably the only person there who didn't clap. It looked like I was the oldest person there too. I was 17 years old, and the tent only allowed under 18-year-olds in it, which was very, very peculiar. But I sat there and I closed my eyes while Marcus cheered everything that was going on. And every time I closed my eyes to sleep, yes, I was upward, the crowd would wake me up. So there was really no halfway. Just grin and bear it. I thought I sat through elephants parading around in circles, tigers jumping through hoops, people firing themselves from cannons, tightrope walkers, and I still remain bored. Up next, we have the wonderful Miss Melody singing her wonderful tune, "Peaceful Night." Out came a stunningly beautiful woman wearing a sparkly red dress and high heels. Her hair was long and blonde, and it seemed to trail down her back. She sang a gorgeous song that for the first time in the whole show kept the audience silent. We were in awe of her beauty, and when the song finished, the crowd went back to their usual self and filled the place with cheers and whoops. She turned around and slowly wandered back behind the curtains. And our final act this evening are some special guests. They have come from miles away today just to be here. So, can you please welcome Jane and Andy Jones? My eyes widened. Marcus and I looked at each other with the same expression. He said, Mom and Dad's names. The red curtains drew back, and to my surprise, there they were. I looked in shock as they wandered toward the audience, smiling and waving. What on earth were they doing in here? Mom looked around, and we made eye contact. Her eyes were red and bloodshot, as if she'd been crying her eyes out, and Dad looked just as upset as Mom. They were holding hands and struggling to smile, but something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The crowd went quiet, and the ringmaster gave my mother a microphone. I'd just like to say that it's a great honor to be here, and I'd like to announce that tonight we are redecorating the tent. I'd like to say to my sons, if I may, get out of here now. The ringmaster looked at someone behind the curtain. I couldn't see who it was, but I have a feeling that my mom wasn't meant to say that, and as she did, I gulped. I grabbed Marcus's arm, and the ringmaster marched forward, grabbed the microphone, and pushed them back. Let's hear it for Jane and Andy Jones. The audience did not applaud. They chatted amongst themselves, intrigued by what had just occurred. I looked at Marcus, and I leaned in closer to his ear. Don't you let go of my hand, I whispered. I stood up with him, and we awkwardly shuffled past moaning audience members to get to the exit. The ringmaster glared at me whilst addressing the audience. I didn't hear what he was saying. After making our way to the exit, we hurried outside and looked left to right, trying to spot a backstage entrance so that we could find our parents. My phone vibrated in my pocket, and when I checked it, it had turned off because it was out of battery. It was just my luck. I led Marcus past smiling parents waiting for their children. They seemed quite content eating and drinking and chatting while their children were being entertained by daredevils. The eerie music was still blaring out across the circus after avoiding about 20 piles of vomit and 100 cans of drinks on the grass. Marcus and I could not find any sign of an entrance. Maybe they're at the car, I questioned. What's that? Marcus asked. What's what? I replied. Over there, that wooden door by the tent. I looked to where he was pointing. Joined onto the main tent was a wooden exterior. It was rectangular shaped with a tin roof. We wandered over and I proceeded to knock on the door. Hello, excuse me? We're looking for our parents. Hello, there was lots of banging from within. I could make out a dull moaning coming from behind the door, but no one came to answer it. I tried knocking 10 times or so, but nothing. Look, they're probably at the car, I said. And suddenly, hundreds of children burst through the doors of the tent. An announcement came through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, the park will be closing in 10 minutes. Thank you. This was turning into something I dreaded for a long time, losing my loved ones when I needed them. There was no security in this place. I saw no security guards the entire time I was there. The best thing to do was ask a performer of our parents' whereabouts, but I didn't see any. And I couldn't get backstage to ask anyone. What I think we should do is go. And then everything went black. And so began my night at the circus. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the pain in my head. It was a violent throbbing right on the top of my head. The sky was pitch black. It was night. The moon wasn't even in the sky. Some security lights were on. However, I sat up and processed everything that was going on. I was in a cage, one of the animal cages, and on the other side there lay a tiger, but it was dead. I nearly puked at the sight of it. It had been mutilated from head to paw, slashes across its stomach, teeth removed from its mouth. Flies were all over it like a bout of chicken pox, and tied around its neck was a piece of string with a note attached. The note reads to be darker. I looked at the cage door. I noticed the lock. It looked rather rusty and I tried pulling it for some time, but to no avail. It didn't open, and that's when I heard a shuffle coming from some distance in front of me. There was only some light coming from where I was looking. but from around the corner, there came a silhouette. I didn't move a muscle. It stood there for a good minute or two and then walked back to the direction it came. Another minute went by and the thing emerged again. I could hear a whining sound coming from its direction, and that's when I noticed it was dragging something. No, someone. Now, my view was quite simple. In front of me in the distance was the main tent, or the Big Top as it is known. Hence why the owner's name is Big Top. Below it was a low rug or carpet of sorts that spreaded in all different directions. One of them led to me, and I noticed they were colored red. The figure now came from my left of my view, and the air was filled with the loudest shouting a person could hear. The person the figure was dragging began to protest. "Help, please, somebody help. Help me, who are you? I just want to see my wife and children. Let me go." This man was scared absolutely shitless. I could make out his hands digging into the carpet to stop this figure from dragging him. They both went into the tent, and I frantically tried to get out now. I even attempted picking the lock with my nails. Yeah, I was that desperate. And then snap. The lock chain broke and the door gently swung open. I guess it was rusty after all. I crawled out of the cage cautiously and then looked around. Where the hell was the way out? I didn't even know what to do next. I was so worried about myself that when I realized I needed to find Marcus and my parents, I started to cry. I don't know what to do anymore. I whispered to myself whilst weeping, and then I heard a squeak. The speakers had turned on throughout the circus, and what I heard made everything slightly more disturbing. Classical music. Frederick Chopin's piano piece, Raindrops Prelude, echoed between the confines of the circus. All of what happens next I will never forget for the rest of my days. The comp's voice, followed by the most haunting of screams, came through the speakers. "Right, darling. What I need you to do is just keep calm. You're helping me decorate, so you shouldn't be upset. Please get me off of here." I didn't do anything. Please? Well, let's see here. Wonderful color, darling. Got an almost pink hue to it, right? Okay. Well, that can do for the side beams over there. Yes, that'll do nicely. Stop this, please. It hurts. Please just stop. Don't be so loud. Please. I thought you had a headache anyway. There we go. Oh, your head does look vile, doesn't it? Right, Melody. Melody, could you clean this up for me, darling? Thank you. I stood in sheer horror at what I just heard. The piano stopped playing for about 30 seconds, and then it continued. This time, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata was playing, and suddenly the figure came bursting out of the tent, and it saw me instantly. "My child, what are you doing?" "I thought you were locked up." "Oh, I'll come here at once," it demanded. I found myself listening to the thing. Why would I do that? What came over me? I don't know. As I walked closer, it became apparent who was conversing with me. It was a clown, but it wasn't just a standard clown. It was the one on the sign outside of the circus. Big red nose, big red shoes, big red trousers, white feather on the top of his hat. The bottom of his face was painted blue. His lips were white. This was Big Top. He spoke to me. I've never seen such an obedient child. Now, don't worry. I don't hurt children. I want you to come inside with me and stay here. Don't speak unless spoken to and try to be good. Okay, excellent. He grabbed my shoulder and forced me to walk along the carpet. I know why it was red now. I didn't even want to have the slightest thought about it. Smell that? Don't you just love that copper smell? He asked. Yes, it's lovely. I struggled to say as the putrid smell clanged to my nostrils. I dared not disagree with him. The uniform I'm wearing is for extreme redecoration, he claimed. I looked up at the ceiling of the tent. I retched after I saw what was there. And as I did so, Big Top grabbed my collar of my shirt and pulled me back up. Hanging me from the ceiling were dozens of hooks. Some of them had bodies dangling from them, and others were yet to endure the same fate. and underneath each hook was a red pot. The ones below, the bodies were full, and all the others were empty. Big Top shoved me onto the audience seats, and he walked over to a rack in the center of the room. Now, what I want you to do is every time a paint pot gets full up, is to paint the beams on the sides for me. Okay, I'll give you a ladder and you can gradually work your way up. From behind the curtains, Melody the singer emerged with a ladder. The expression on her face was one of disgust. Well, say thank you then. Big snapped. Thank you. Thank you, Melody. I stuttered because I was so _nervous. Big Top wandered outside, and I assumed over to another cage because a minute or so later, he dragged in another man. Why don't you pay attention to me? She wandered over and dragged him to the floor. No, no, no. Let him do it with his fingers, I gulped. There was no way in hell I would ever perform such a ghastly task. My family could die? Oh my God, what if they were already dead? I found myself asking these questions as I began dipping my fingers into the pot. I was on my knees, and in my mind, I was begging for all of this to stop. But you might find a chunk of something in there, but it's all goodness, so don't worry about it, kiddo. Now, this part of the story was a blur for me. But that is all. How long I did this for, I'm not clear, but Big kept killing victim after victim. This was no circus, it was a slaughterhouse. He was redecorating his playground. Melody must have hung the bodies while I worked. And the next thing I remember was Big's booming voice declaring, "We're on the last one now, Melody." Oh my, you're nearly done, my boy. Well, keep it up, he shouted excitedly. A few agonizingly long minutes later, he strolled back in. He wasn't dragging anymore. He was walking with someone. I leaned in closer to see who it was, but no, it couldn't be him. Big had entered the tent, but with Marcus. Marcus' hand was engulfed by the dripping wet gloves that Big wore, and he was holding his hand. How could this monster hold my brother's hand? Now, you're going to help me paint, Marcus, if that's all right with you. You'll be helping me out massively, Marcus. And you'll see your mommy and your daddy if you do. Yay. You're a star, Marcus. You're an _star. Big shot his eyes up at me and stared as he walked slowly with Marcus. If looks could kill, he was going to kill Marcus. And something within me snapped. Don't you even _lay your hands on him? No, I'll use a tool, darling. I'm not a underscore idiot. I'm so very sorry, the clown said. He lifted the knife up, ready to stab. No, please. I assumed Marcus broke free from Big's grip and ran with me. Melody ran with us and Big screamed with anger. He must have had a music player or something, because when we left the tent, Ducey's reverie began to blast out through the speakers. I want you to paint. And with that, we ran through the door and around the corner. There was the entrance. It was right in front of us. And as we were running, Melody pulled out some matches from her pocket and a matchbox. She lit them and threw them at the fence by the entrance gate. Fire engulfed the wooden fence and Big stormed through the gates. No, look what you've done. We ran. We didn't have a destination. We just ran. We went into the fields in front of us, the turban fields. The fire was blazing now. It had reached the tent. And that's when I noticed there were children. Children were sitting in the fields. And I assumed that these were the children who lost their parents. The atmosphere was deadly. I stopped. The others continued running, and in my mind, thoughts of my parents kept replaying. I turned around finally, and I saw that sadistic clown now walking in the dark, a dripping blade in his hand. Paint a wooden beam. How _hard is it? Where are my parents? I shouted. She had a small blade that she drew from her pocket. From her other pocket, she drew a paintbrush. She lifted the blade to her other arm and she sliced at her arm. I gasped in horror. Melody, what are you doing? She turned to me. Saving us. She immediately turned back around and she began to place the paintbrush on her arm. She started to stroke her wound with it and I could hear her struggling in pain as she did this. What the hell was she doing? She then pulled her sleeve up more and began to paint it. I'm painting. You can't do this, Big. Big's eyes widened. No, this is not right. I can't even touch you. That paint is so beautiful on your skin. I then lifted up my sleeves and Melody then painted my left arm. I cringed at the sight and the feel of her blood running down me. You both look so wonderful. Well, that color is beautiful on you. Melody began to march forward. "This stops now, Big," she said calmly. Melody then snatched the knife from Big and she plunged it straight into his stomach. She took a step back. And then when Big finally processed what was going on, he took a step back. He looked at the gaping hole in his outfit and he gripped the knife. "You look so beautiful, Melody." He yanked out the knife and then he gracefully wiped it along his right glove. He then lifted his glove to his nose and inhaled deeply. "Oh God, that smells wonderful." And with that, he fell to the ground. So did I collapsed, actually? This is what the police statement read. "This is Officer Reynolds. I've got to redecorate," he said. And he said this precisely 11 times. And one officer claimed he had to leave the room because of the look Ryan gave him. Despite this outburst, he answered the questions as best as he could. All were questioned, and Melody claimed she was blackmailed to take care of the bodies. After the interview, the 22 children were sent to their next of kin. Ryan was sent to his home, and Melody accompanied him and his brother. She drove them home in his car around 4:00 p.m. that day. Seeing as their next of kin cannot be contacted at this time, and Melody is not a suspect in the case, we placed the children in her care for the time being. The evidence was reviewed that evening, and about 2:00 a.m. this morning, we got a call from Melody. He suffered lacerations to his stomach, groin, and legs. There appeared to be written in blood above the bed in his bedroom the words, "I love this job, XX." Melody suffered no injuries. Melody also said that he was wearing a clown suit. Melody said that she received a letter 2 weeks prior to the opening day offering her a job there to perform. She never went for an interview or anything of the sort. The performers we are still trying to contact at this time. After thorough investigation, we found a stash of them in the middle of Colberry Woods. This is the next part of our investigation regarding the false whereabouts of Ryan Jones. Also, we could find no trace of a clown outside the circus.